Good morning, grade 5. Today's lesson, inshallah, is about how does matter change. Please open your science notebook and write today's date, which is 30 March 2020. The vocabulary is made up mainly of physical property, chemical property, mass, matter, volume, and density. I'm sure you have a good background, inshallah, about this lesson from grade 4. So we're just going to go quickly through the lesson. It's gonna be easy, inshallah. You know, of course, that everything is made up of matter. Everything around us is made up of matter, and the amount of matter in an object is called mass. Everything around us, even our body, even in our organs, everything is made up around us of matter. Anything that takes up space and has mass is called matter. Mass is the amount of matter inside an object. So if it takes space, like of course, like example, your pencil case, it has space, right? It takes space in your bag, and it has mass. You can weigh it, right? So it's called matter. A physical property is something that you can observe with your own senses. Like what, for example? Like hardness, color, shape, texture, and smell. Now here, the ability to bend, or something can easily bend, we can express this word by the word hardness. So for example, the stone is hard, it cannot be easily bent, so hardness is an example of the physical property. The color as well, we have a lot of colors around us. What happens to the color? The light falls off on, for example, an orange. If you have an orange, or if you have an apple, the light falls on this apple, and then the light bounces off to your eye, so you can see it as green. So we have a lot of colors: red, blue, green, yellow. The color explains the way light bounces off an object. And the texture, of course, is like when you have a cat, the texture of it, when you touch it, how can you feel it? The texture is fluffy, right? It's smooth. Your skin has smooth texture, and here's an example for the pine cone. It has a rough texture, so it describes what something feels like. You have an iPhone, of course, or you have a phone, a mobile phone. So what's the shape of the mobile phone? It's a square or rectangle. It describes an object's form. Shape, the word shape describes an object form. If you have a laptop, if you have a computer, what shape is it? And then another thing from the physical properties, there we can measure the volume. A volume is how much space an object takes up. So for example, if you have a cup of water, a glass cup of water, how can you know how much is it? Is it half full or fully full? We need to know. So we can use the graduated cylinder in order to measure the water in order to measure the water's volume inside a cup. So like here, for example, this is a graduated cylinder. This is how graduated cylinder. Graduated means it has numbers 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So for example here, the density now the graduated cylinder, we can use it to measure the volume of an liquid, for example water, right? So if I fill this graduated cylinder with water, and then I come here to measure, I will measure, for example, I will only fill it to the half, so I can measure at 30, and I find the green solution is up till 30, for example. Okay, so this is the graduated cylinder. Can I also measure something else? I can measure the density. The density is the amount of matter present in a certain volume of a substance. So for example, you can see here that there's an oil at the beginning, up there, it's floating up there, and the water is down there. So this is oil, for example, the yellow part is oil, and the other parts are made up of colored water. Okay, they are colored. For example, what makes them separate this way? The density. The density separates them. The light objects, they will float up, and the dense, heavy, like water, it will go down. So substance with less density means low density, they are light, they will float over the denser substance. The denser substance, which is water, it's heavy, it will sink down, and the oil will go up. A chemical property, now we have finished the physical properties. A chemical property is the property that describes how substance interacts with other substance. For example, the ability to rust is a chemical property of iron. If you have iron and you expose it to air and expose it to water vapor, expose it to oxygen, what will form? Rusting. This is how it looks like. Iron that rusts looks like this. And what do we call this? We call this a chemical property of iron. Chemical property of iron is the ability to rust. What about the ability to burn of wood? It's a chemical property as well. So if you want to make barbecue, or if you want to open the heater, if you want to put wood in order to get heat in cold days, what will happen? You will burn the wood, right? So the ability to burn for the wood is a chemical property. But what cannot be burned? The gold and the water. Gold and water can never be burned. Can you burn water? No. Can you burn gold? No. They are two substances that can never be burned. That's their chemical property. They cannot be burned. A chemical reaction takes place slowly or quickly. It's another word for the chemical change. So chemical change, another word for it is the chemical reaction. Again, a chemical change, another word for it is the chemical reaction. What happens? Two substances together, they form a new substance. When we mix two substances together, they form a new substance. What can make me know that there's a chemical change has occurred? There's a change in the color, or change in the smell, or release of heat or light. Let's see, for example, here the funky foam experiment. You added lemon juice and you added liquid dish soap and you added baking soda in a glass of water, in an empty cup, in an empty drinking glass. Okay, you added lemon juice, liquid dish soap, and baking soda, and you just stir them together. What will happen? There's a foam that will shoot out like this at the end. So this is an example for the chemical reaction. Chemical reaction. Now we are done. I'm going to post the answers to the workbook questions. Please, if you want to print this slide and staple it in your book, in your science workbook, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you very much.